Welcome to the Best Minds in Association podcast from CSAE. I'm Tyrone Adams, your president for CSAE, which stands for the Colorado Society of Association Executives. And today I'm happy to bring to you Paul Caputo. He is the deputy director at the National Association of Interpretation, and you've been there for 19 years. Another thing is you're one of the great volunteers that we have at CSAE. I mean, you serve on the board of directors. You're also one of the champions of the CSAE podcast, a speaker. I've seen you speak at our conference, and then you also helped create the Shop Talk. But before we talk about one of your passions, I want you to tell us a little bit more about your journey with the Interpretation Association.
Well, first of all, good morning, Ty. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy that you're the president of CSAE right now. I've known you for years and had the good fortune of sitting next to you on a bus during an activity at a conference a few years ago and getting to know you. So it's been great to take this journey with you and to watch your success in the organization. And so I'm super happy to be here talking to you right now.
I appreciate that, Paul.
My journey in associations is, I don't think it's unusual that it's been a long and winding and sort of unexpected journey, just because I know that so many people in this association have that experience. I don't know how many folks in the association were French majors in college. That was at the University of Richmond. I graduated in 1995 with a degree in French, and how that led me to be, the deputy director of an association in Fort Collins, Colorado. I have no idea. I did end up going back to school for graphic design and was hired here at NAI in 2002 as our graphic designer, literally not knowing what interpretation was when they hired me. I came in saying, I speak French. I know a little bit of Spanish. My dad wrote a book on a thing called hermeneutics. I could not tell from their website what interpretation was. And that's been a journey for me too, just learning what, the sense of the word interpretation means. And essentially what it means is, people who interpret nature and culture and heritage, history. You go to the Grand Canyon and the park ranger in the flat hat telling you about the stratification of the rocks. That's a nature interpreter. You go to colonial Williamsburg and you've got the guys dressed, in colonial gear, and they're showing you how to make candles or fire a cannon. They're living history interpreters. And that was all part of, learning for me. So I ended up getting certified as a certified interpretive trainer, just to learn about interpretation. I ended up becoming the editor of the magazine. And I've just sort of, over the course of being here, it'll be 20 years in February, over the course of just being here for so long, just by pure attrition, I have worked my way up the ranks, and, just learned a ton about the field and, applied sort of my background in graphic design to interpretation, and through being here and also through being involved in CSAE, learning about the association world and understanding, what it means to be in a professional trade association, in addition to graphic design and interpretation as professions.
Well, I think that's awesome, man. I mean, it sounds like you've definitely taken the initiative. I mean, think about it, 19 years. That's not a small feat. And many people leave their jobs after 3 to 5 years. For you to take that initiative to learn more about it and to stay there as long as you have and to rise to the depth to where you've risen to is awesome. So we applaud you for that. And I'm sure they're really lucky to have you. You did talk a little bit about your volunteerism a little bit with CSAE. What did that mean to you? And are there other places that you volunteer your time right now that helped you either professionally or mean something to you personally?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, being involved with CSAE, I've, been able to sort of apply my areas of interest to the things that I've chosen to be involved with. So for instance, this podcast, I'm a big podcast fan. I'm sure I'm not unusual that I listen to a lot of podcasts, but creating podcasts and seeing what goes into that has been, learning about that's been really interesting for me. So volunteering, obviously in areas where, my interest can be applied, has been valuable for me sort of personally. One of the things that I do through NAI, and we're involved as an organization. We're one of the partner organizations in this thing called the Riverfest. and it's an annual event. It was canceled last year or taken online last year, but it's outside the realm of my, sort of my job and my responsibilities. But the Poudre Riverfest is an annual event where people learn about the importance of a healthy river ecosystem, especially in Fort Collins, right? We have the Poudre River that flows through Fort Collins. It's responsible for our drinking water, our irrigation for agriculture. It's responsible for all of the craft breweries, who use the water to brew their beer. So helping people understand that the Poudre River is such a valuable asset, and keeping it healthy and keeping it clean is so important to us. What I do for them personally is I use what I hope they consider a valuable skill that I can bring to the table, which is my graphic design background. And so I just this year, we created a series of 12 banners that take you sort of through the headwaters and understanding, what's happening up in the headwaters of the Poudre River, all the way down through, as the river flows through town and back out of Colorado. Colorado, by the way, we're the headwaters state. We're the only state in the nation that only has headwaters. So any river that exists in Colorado starts in Colorado.
That's amazing. You learn something every day. I did not know that.
The one of the other areas where I'm happy to help out, as I can, if my skills are useful, is you've met my fiance Ramsey, who works for an organization in Denver called GRASP, which is the Gang Rescue and Support Project, and they do a lot of events, and they sometimes have graphic design needs, and so I've helped with some of their graphic design needs, and that's. Part of that's being in a relationship and being asked to help, but also part of it is, it's an incredibly valuable organization that, helps support underserved communities that need help, and they're doing amazing work over there. And so, if I'm able to contribute there as I can, that's certainly valuable to me.
Well, that, and you're absolutely right, Paul. Volunteering helps us grow, whether it's professionally, personally, just to look at all the stuff that you're doing and all the knowledge you're gaining. And I think that's awesome. And I would encourage anybody to volunteer whenever they can, because we all have something to offer. We all have different journeys. We all have something to offer. But now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about something that's passionate to you, and it involves sports. I hear that you're a big baseball fan and that you love baseball. So tell us a little bit more about that and how that helps shape some of the things you're doing now.
Well, so there's one thing in particular that I get asked about a lot, and I am a huge minor league baseball fan. I will tell you that I grew up a Phillies fan. I'm still a Phillies fan. I've been in Colorado for, more than now 20 years. I'm still a Phillies fan, still root for the Phillies, but I've really developed an interest in minor league baseball. And part of that is, minor league baseball is a great fan experience. It's inexpensive. You're close to the field. The players interact with the fans. It's accessible, it's easy to attend, and it's fun. The sort of between innings activities are fun. But I have a particular interest in the team names of minor league baseball. And I have this theory, and already, we've talked about it. I wrote a book called The Story Behind the Nickname. And I have this premise where I approach minor league baseball with, you can tell the story of America through understanding why minor league baseball teams have the names that they have. It goes from a team like the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs in Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's a part of the country where they have these steel mills and they forge pig iron. And so the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs are named for the pig iron that's forged in Allentown, Pennsylvania, in northeastern Pennsylvania. A team like the Albuquerque Isotopes, who are the Rockies AAA team right now. They're named after a Simpsons episode. There was a Simpsons episode where Homer discovered that the Springfield Isotopes, that Duff Beer owned the Springfield Isotopes and was going to move them to Albuquerque. And he went on a hunger strike and, to bring attention to the fact that they were going to move. So when Albuquerque got a new team, the Albuquerque Dukes left in 2001. They got a new team in 2003. They had a fan vote, and of course, Isotopes ran away with it. But it's not just because it was a Simpsons episode. It was because Albuquerque is directly tied to the science industry, right? They've got Sandia Laboratories down there. They've got, a huge sort of science industry in the area. So isotopes was totally appropriate. So those are just sort of two examples.
But I have a question for you on that. I mean, because I did go to Albuquerque one time for a conference, and one of the things we did, we decided to go take in a minor league game.
Absolutely.
And it was the isotopes. And I heard that was the Colorado, was it?
Affiliate. Yeah.
Affiliate, thank you.
Affiliate, sure.
And I'm thinking, well, why are they in Albuquerque, first of all?
Yeah.
And they're playing the Las Vegas?
It's either the 51s.
The 51s.
Okay. They're now the Las Vegas Aviators, but they were the Las Vegas 51s, named for Area 51, which is one of the all-time great brands right there. I wish they didn't change it. So
I get that piece of it for them, but what about for Colorado? I mean, they're first of all, like I said, they're in Albuquerque. Yeah. And isotopes in Albuquerque, but what does that have to do with Colorado? Well,
in some cases, not that much, right? And I think that's one of the beauties of minor league baseball. Even though they're affiliated with the parent club, the team is the community's team. And so, the Rockies have a player development contract with Albuquerque, and, their only responsibility to Colorado is to basically do what the Rockies say with their players, they don't want a pitcher to pitch so many innings, or they don't, they want a player to take a rest or a rehab assignment. But otherwise, that's Albuquerque's team, and it should be unique to Albuquerque. Another one of the Rockies farm teams is the Hartford Yard Goats in Hartford, Connecticut. And they're called the Yard Goats. And people are like, well, when that name came out, I remember everyone just saying, well, they're just picking words out of a dictionary now, and they're just being ridiculous, right? But if you look at Hartford, Connecticut, it's right on an incredibly important railroad line. And I forget the name. It's the Hartford, New Haven, something. It's a huge, important railroad line in the Northeast. And a yard goat is a nickname for a locomotive switcher in a railroad. That's what people in the railroad industry call these locomotive switchers in these basically railroad hubs. And so they took that nickname for an industry that's important to that area and turned it into sort of a fun, it's an actual goat, like with a bat in its mouth, right? So they're a Rockies affiliate, but that team is Hartford's team, and that brand is Hartford's brand right there. Because, if you call them the Hartford Rockies, what does that mean to someone in Hartford, Connecticut, right?
Nothing.
And especially because Albuquerque, they were a Dodgers affiliate, and these teams, they change affiliations all the time. And so, so if they're not going to be the Albuquerque Dodgers or the Albuquerque, gosh, I forget what the other, I know Las Vegas has been a Dodgers affiliate, a Mets affiliate, and now they're an A's affiliate. And so why not, build a brand with some equity that's unique to that part of the country, and make it hyper local, which I think has been really successful. And then you have a team like in Birmingham. They're the Birmingham Barons, and they are directly descended from the Southern Negro Leagues team called the Birmingham Black Barons. And so they're tying directly into that history. And in fact, the Southern Negro Leagues Museum is actually adjacent to their stadium right there. So, there's a team that has tied directly into this history, right? Like that, the sort of dark history of segregation. And, they're bringing that story to light. I should tell you too, tomorrow, I'm going on my annual Baseball Palooza minor league baseball road trip that I do with college buddies. And so every year we pick a different part of the country, and we go to 4 minor league baseball games in 4 different places. Tonight, actually, I fly to Kansas City. And then one of the places every baseball fan should go in Kansas City is the National Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, which absolutely everyone should see. And then we're going to the Wichita Wind Surge, the Oklahoma City Dodgers, who actually are named for their parent club, the Northwest Arkansas Naturals, and the Kansas City Monarchs. So we're going to see those 4 teams the next 4 days.
Oh man, that sounds like a blast.
It is a blast. It is a blast. So the other thing though that I should tell you, and I think I sort of buried the lead here, that I get asked about all the time. So researched all these team names. I did write a book about it. I have, as you can probably tell, way more to say about it than we could ever fit in a half-hour podcast or a 4-hour podcast. But I do have on display in my basement. When I finished my basement, I put in a 30-foot shelf along one wall where I have currently, this is the up to the minute number. I counted them just yesterday so that I could have an accurate number. I have 337 unique ice cream helmet sundaes that when you go to a baseball game, you get the little ice cream and a helmet with the team logo on it. I started collecting those maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And when I started going to more and more minor league baseball games, I realized that the minor league teams were doing these too. And so it combines 3 of my passions, which are baseball, minor league baseball logos, because it's a great way to display all these minor league baseball logos, and ice cream. So there's 3 of my passions right there, all rolled into one.
So what's your favorite ice cream then? I mean, and who has the best ice cream? Which place has the best ice cream that you've been to out of all those nights?
I may be something of a homer here when I say this, but I have to say, in the major leagues, the Phillies have the best ice cream. They've got this like frozen custard. They've got delicious frozen custard. You get the rainbow jimmies on it. Yeah, it's perfect. But the minor league team with the best ice cream that I've had is a team in Ohio called the Akron Rubber Ducks, and they are named the Rubber Ducks because the tire industry is huge to Akron. They've got 3 tire companies are headquartered there. They do an annual rubber duck race in the river that goes through Akron, and so rubber ducks are rubber. The rubber industry and rubber ducks in particular are important to Akron, so that's where they got that name. But man, they've got like a hard ice cream that they serve in just like a scooped ice cream that they serve, and it's a local company that does it. And I got that ice cream there, and first of all, it was like a massive serving, and second of all, it was delicious. So the unbiased answer to that question has to be the Akron Rubber Ducks. They also do a concession item called the Screamer, which is a full-sized helmet with 20 scoops. It's got literally 20 scoops of ice cream and 2 bananas on top.
Yeah. Well, man, that sounds still like a great time. And to taste all that ice cream and to do that, that's awesome. This just shows us that there is life outside of our work, right? Outside of our association work, outside of our volunteerism. And so I applaud you for doing that. But one of the things that come up when we do those type of things is how do we balance all that? Because that's very important. It's very important to have all components of that. But tell us a few of the things that you use or tips that you use to make sure that this is all balanced and you don't get off kilter.
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. And sometimes, we struggle with that. And, I have to avoid sometimes, like I have to intentionally leave my laptop at home, right? Like if I'm going to be gone for a Thursday and a Friday and then the weekend, sometimes you have to carve out. I'm taking those 2 days. I'm taking Thursday and Friday. I'm available by text if the place is burning down or whatever. But otherwise, is there any emergency that's so, such a crisis that you have to, reach me and I have to be working while I'm literally on vacation? And I think that that's something that all of us need to be better at is actually having, personal interests, because I've seen it too often where somebody defines themselves by their job and then they leave their job. And then there's this sort of spinning of wheels that is like, who am I and what am I about? And, I guess it's important to me because, it's interesting because you brought up the fact that I've been in this job for as long as I have. And, in some ways that's a positive, but in other ways that's, perhaps a negative, having been here this long, I'm lucky that this job has changed enough and my responsibilities have changed enough and the organization has changed, and that change happens consistently enough that it sort of keeps it interesting. And my job now is very different from what my job was 5 years ago, or certainly 10 or 15 years ago. So even though I've been in the same organization for a long time, the job is different and the organization is different and it's growing. The question of how do you have that life outside your profession, outside, volunteerism, volunteering with CSAE has been super important for me, serving on the board, serving on the podcast committee, serving on the membership committee. I was really disappointed this year to miss the conference for the first time in 6 years. And so
it was a great one too. It was a good one.
I know. And I'm sure it was so much fun to like actually get back together in person with everybody. Right. And so, so CSAE has been hugely important to me. Right. Taking time for that in my life, and I'm lucky that NAI supports me in being involved with CSAE. Right. So I can do that. I can do my CSAE things as part of my, time at work. But, I have, people in my life who are emailing me at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, sometimes with work stuff. And I'm like, man, that's, I switched gears, I switched gears a couple hours ago and I'm not in that mode right now. Let's talk about that tomorrow. And I think it's just having been here as long as I have, it would have been too easy for me, I think, to completely define myself by this job and this job only. And, if someday I were to leave NAI, I want to know that I'm leaving there as sort of a whole human being with interests and skills outside of just this one particular place. And so, I'm here because I love the association, and I think the field is incredibly important. I mean, the field of interpretation right now is helping to build understanding about nature and culture and understanding the sort of crisis that we face with climate change, but also the crisis that we face in understanding one another, right? Like building bridges between communities. And so, interpretation is an incredibly important field, and it's getting more important. And, if someday beyond this job, I can use those interests in another way, that's fantastic. But it's always, for as long as I've been here, it's been important to me that, I define myself as a human being with interests that will still be there, if I were to change job positions.
Yeah. You touched on a great point, and we're going to wrap this up, but you know what? This all makes us whole. Each one of these pieces makes us whole. So, well, I appreciate you, Paul, for taking time out today and for sharing with us your insights, your journey, and all different aspects, your love for baseball and all the different things you do for the minor leagues. And we want to just wish you a safe travel while you're out there having fun, eating all the different ice creams and enjoying the minor league baseball games with your friends. So thank you for all you do for CSAE. We couldn't do it without you. Very important part of us. And we just want to say we really appreciate you. So thank you, guys. This is the wrap up of our podcast for today, and we thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tyrone.